Don't just take our word for it. Check out what our clients are saying about working with the Dan Gemis Real Estate Team.
You know, I got to thank you for being a voice of reason in a sea of insanity. I really appreciate what you and your teams do.
Visit dangemis.com. And now, filling in for Dan Gemis, it's your host, Joyce Blackmere.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us. With me in studio today is Kathy Talbot, sales rep with the team. Hello, Kathy.
Hello, everyone.
So we're going to give away a $50 gift card to the Richmond Popcorn Company. Kathy, who is our lucky winner today?
Today it is Catherine Troiani.
Well, congratulations, Catherine. That's a $50 gift card to the Richmond Popcorn Company. Richmond Popcorn Company is located at 61 Richmond Street in Amherstburg. They released their top 20 flavors. I'm just going to tell you a couple of them because we'll get to Christian in a second. But Chicago Mix, caramel
That's
corn,
one of mine.
They're always in the top. Movie Time.
Yep, that's always in the top.
Oreo, kettle corn, pickled cowboy.
Oh my God.
Dill pickle. White cheddar dill, wild west, and garlic parm. That's your top 10. Go in and check them out. You can meet the friendly staff there.
It's a
today.
great little group there. And
it really is.
You can taste every one of their flavors.
Yes.
I was in there one day and a lady must have tasted about 7. And I thought,
And
by
I'm
then,
to leave now. I'm full.
yeah, no, but by then all your taste buds are probably going overdrive. But there's a lot to choose from. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, there sure is. Occupational hazard just downstairs from our office. So it's right, same building.
All you can smell. Actually, you can smell it up the block.
Up the street. Yeah, 100%. It's amazing.
It's wonderful.
We have our legal tip today. Christian Janice is on the phone. Hi, Christian. How are you?
Hey, Joyce. Hey, Kathy. How are you?
Hi.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, and today it's actually less of a tip and more of a news article / something interesting that's recently come up in the news regarding Airbnb and the landlord-tenant regulations in Ontario.
Oh, awesome.
2 weeks ago, or maybe a little bit more than 2 weeks ago, there was a decision rendered by the landlord-tenant board. The Coles notes for the case is we had a visiting professor at York University. They were renting or, quote unquote, renting a property through Airbnb for 10 months. Midway through the tenancy, the owner or, quote unquote, landlord of the property had a change in personal circumstances and needed to get back into the property. So they told the renters or the individuals who booked through the Airbnb platform, hey, we need to cancel it early. We got to get back in there. The individuals living there said, no, you can't because we're technically tenants under the Residential Tenancies Act, and therefore you can't evict us early. And the landlord took the position that there's one clause or one provision in the Residential Tenancies Act that says the act, so all the protections that tenants have, does not apply to short-term rentals or vacation homes. So that they disputed over that for many, many months, and the landlord-tenant board found that the tenancy was actually not governed by the Residential Tenancies Act. So it's a pretty big decision because a lot of people are using Airbnb now as a platform to rent out their properties. And in this case, it was a little bit of a gray area because it's 10 months. So it's kind of like a fixed term lease, like even if you have like a 1-year lease. The reason why the board member found that it wasn't subject to protection, there were a few things. So the first thing is that because it was booked through the platform, it clearly showed that it was meant to be a fixed term tenancy, and that they clearly didn't indicate that they wanted it to be governed by the regulations. In fact, the person renting the property asked for a lease agreement, and the owner said, no, we'd prefer to keep it on Airbnb. The second thing is that the tenant or the person renting it, because it was through Airbnb, could cancel the contract at any time without penalty. And then the last thing is that the owner of the property provided services to the people renting the property. So, for example, weekly cleaning, bedding, things that you wouldn't necessarily get if you entered into an ordinary lease agreement with a landlord. At least according to the board member, that's what they found. So kind of a game-changing decision because now a lot of landlords are probably just going to enter into fixed-term contracts through Airbnb in order to avoid, the Residential Tenancy Act.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, Christian, my question would be, if a landlord opts to do a fixed term lease, but not on Airbnb, they're just doing a 6 month, we'll say that they're doing a 6 month fixed term lease. How would this decision, made through the Airbnb still count towards that, or what would the difference be there because it'd be private?
Yeah, so if they didn't go through Airbnb, it was just a fixed-term lease with the landlord, then the tenant would have the right to stay for the full 6 months. In this case, the owner/landlord was able to kick the tenant out early because it wasn't a fixed-term lease. It was, they booked. So when you go on Airbnb, you can book the beginning date and the end date. So their argument was that it was kind of similar to a fixed-term lease, but the owner was saying, well, it's not a lease. You could have canceled it at any time. Whereas in the case of an ordinary lease, the tenant can't cancel it ahead of time.
Right,
I
right.
think it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And it comes full circle from our Barbie Dreamhouse Airbnb at the beginning of the show. So,
Yeah.
it does, yeah. Nobody's getting away with that. So, Christian, if people are doing short-term rentals on their own, so they're committed to like the full length of the term, whatever it is that they agree to. Now, does that still fall under the Residential Tenancies Act?
If they sign a lease agreement and they don't go through a booking platform, this decision changes everything now because landlords can, a lot of landlords are advertising on Facebook or on Kijiji. So now they can advertise on these platforms and drive potential customers or renters to their Airbnb page to book. So rather than saying, hey, let's get into a lease agreement, we'll have it all done through Airbnb. And at that point, they can basically avoid all of the residential tenancy regulations. So, and there's a lot, right? Like you can't increase the rent. Well, in this case, you'd be able to just say, contract's over, we need the property, and then you can jack the price up and rent it out to a new person. So the tenant, or quote unquote tenant in this case, is going to appeal this beyond the landlord tenant board and bring it to the court. So I don't think they're going to stop here. But right now, this has kind of changed a lot of things that are going to happen in the rental market, in my opinion, because now it just makes no sense to enter into a lease agreement.
Right. And with all the changes in the rental market to begin with, now I know this isn't the same as what's happening in wards 1 and 2, but there's already been a lot of changes in the rental market. So I'm curious to see how this would land. I think that there's some municipalities for sure that have some restrictions and stricter guidelines and maybe don't even allow for Airbnbs in certain areas and communities.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'm interested to see how this would transpire, or what kind of additional regulations would be imposed. Do you have any ideas, Christian, as to, what, do you have any speculative ideas of what this might bring?
No, not at this time. I think it's because in the past we've talked about the new permits that they're putting in for wards 1 and 2, right? I know that those are being appealed now, but now it's just, you just say it's not a rental, it's an Airbnb, and is that going to be enough to skirt the rules? I don't know exactly what's going to happen, because I do think that from what I was able to read online, a lot of people think that the board member for the landlord-tenant board got this decision wrong. Apparently, there's a lot of cases, I haven't had a chance to read them all, that go against this. So I do think that they're going to try and fight and say that you can't do a long-term rental online without it being subject to the rules. So if your idea is, hey, we'll just go online and do it, that's not going to fly. I think that's maybe where the municipalities are going to go. And like you said, some municipalities are pretty strict on Airbnb, so it might not be totally legal to do this in the first place.
Right. Interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to follow this story and see what final decisions are made. Christian, if anybody has questions for you, they'd like to reach out to you, how can they do so?
They can email us at hello@simplyclose.ca or give us a call at 519-997-3775.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We always appreciate having you and your insights on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too. Well, Kath, that's it. That's all the time that we have for today. It does. It flies right by. Just a quick reminder that there's an open house this afternoon at 361 Benjamin in Bell River. Aaron is there between 1 and 3 p.m. today to take you through and answer any questions that you may have. So go check it out. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to the team about anything you've heard today on the show, you can give us a call 7 days a week at 519-566-5565. And you can find us online at dangemis.com. And we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. So we'll be back tomorrow, same time here on AM 800 from noon to 1. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great day.